Can you feel that? It's time for Sports Dummies, people. Let's do it! Welcome in to Sports Dummies. I am Tony Tucker, and my other co-host here, Joe Morley, and this is a safe space for you to say the dumbest things you want about your favorite sports teams, athletes, conversations that are going on in the world of sports. We try to keep it positive, above the belt, but still have some fun here. And there is plenty to talk about without diving too much into the draft. We're going to be talking Deebo and DK, and I don't know. We'll get into more stuff. But I think that Joe, for those of you on the podcast version of this, you can't see it. Joe is wearing a Dwayne Haskins t-shirt. A little shout out. And this is a very sad way to open up the morning with the news of Dwayne Haskins passing. Joe, I'm gonna let you go first, and then I'll finish up with some quick thoughts. Sorry to start on a somber note.
Yeah, we normally don't like to start our shows off like this, but hey, when there's a passing like this and it's a bigger news, we got to kind of talk about it. And people that watch me and people that know that have been watching the Warzone Sports Network and you and I for the last year or so, they know we always bring up Dwayne Haskins. We've had multiple conversations about Dwayne Haskins over the year, and I got this shirt, and I'm like, Haskins. I always yell him Haskins, and I've always believed in Haskins ever since he was drafted out of Ohio State, and I thought he was on his path to becoming an NFL starter again. And it's just a sad story to hear. You see all the videos now of him and his teammates training in Florida. We don't know what the reason why he was running, but unfortunately he got hit by a truck today and has passed away. And it's just the sad news. Like my goal today was to sleep in, Tony, and I was woken up by my son Jake, who everybody knows who listens to the program, and he was telling me, "Hey, Dad, somebody who played for the Washington football team and the Steelers passed away." And I was like, "Who was it, Jake?" And he was like, "I don't know." So then to find out it was Dwayne Haskins, it kind of hit me weird. And I'm not normally the kind of guy that like takes news bad, especially for, because I didn't have a personal relationship with Dwayne Haskins, but it's just something that I grew up when I watched him from Ohio State and I watched his pro day all the way until now. I was always rooting for him. And just like I said, how big of a part of the program he was with you and me and Mike, and the jokes that we've had, and how you guys were always giving me a hard time, and it just hit me all at once. So rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins, and that's all I got to say about that today, Tony.
Yeah, so with Dwayne Haskins, it was fun for us to do the Haskins season, right? When he got picked up by the Steelers, and even going into last year, I really thought at some point the Steelers season might crash, and Tomlin might have to have an uncomfortable conversation with Ben Roethlisberger and say, "Hey, we need to see what we have in this kid." Like a top pick in the draft just a few short years ago by the Washington team, and he was really in a bad situation. When you think about that Washington football team and all the things they're going through, like it was just not a good spot really for him to have success. And I get a lot of the people and the naysayers and whatever, but he was having fun. Like it was part of the Ohio State teams that used to beat, and continually, it always seems that way, beat the Michigan Wolverines. He was a part of those. My favorite Dwayne Haskins moment in the NFL was when he did win that first game, and he was like ran to the sidelines and was like celebrating like it was in college with the fans or whatever. And I think there was like a 2-point conversion, or like they got a turnover and they needed him to go out and kneel down the ball for victory formation, but he was on the sidelines celebrating, and they sent in the backup. It's like, Keenum, get your helmet and I forget who it was, but he was just so like caught up in the emotions of the moment that he couldn't get there. And I think like, to me, the overall like thing that is the saddest is any time is like whether or not he was going to play in this league or whatever, like this is somebody's like family member, somebody's friend. People are destroyed this morning that they lost somebody that was probably a good, fun, big personality in their life. And for those people, like it really hurts. Anytime you lose young people, to me, it feels devastating. And I think it gets even a little bit more intense for me each year that I get older and my kids get older and I worry about them being out and living life and just tragedy strikes. So again, thoughts are with the families and friends that are extremely suffering, but
And Mike Tomlin had a hard time this morning getting the words out, and he was talking about how much he's liked Haskins since he got into the organization. So it's going to affect the Pittsburgh Steelers players and the organization and the way when they get ready for it. So, but anytime there is a tragic death, it affects a lot more people than what people realize. And so, and you don't focus on the bad or the good. You just focus on somebody that lost their life at the age of 24, and it's hard. And like you said, you kind of, when you get older, Tony, like you said, you do relate it, especially when you have kids. You relate it to your kids and how you would feel in that moment. So yeah, it's a tough one. But now the Steelers have a void, and the NFL has a void, and I'm sure they'll move past it, and we'll see how they react. But our thoughts are with the Steelers and the Dwayne Haskins family at this time.
Yeah, and let's transition and stay with the Steelers. And I read a report, Joe, that the Steelers brought in like every potential like good quarterback from this draft. They were like Ritter, Carson Strong, Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, everybody. If you can throw a football, they probably brought in Troy Anderson, the converted linebacker from Montana State, and they were like, can you throw? Which I thought was really interesting because they didn't give Mitch Trubisky like huge money, but I did think that like they weren't necessarily in the market at number 20 for a quarterback. Like I thought maybe a second round guy, or maybe they go later with somebody like Caleb Ellaby from Central Michigan. Maybe they go like somebody like that, but they're bringing in everybody there. And what do you think about that?
Well, when they signed Mitchell Trubisky, everybody assumed that's the starter, right? But he still came in trying to fight for the job. But I think what it did is it allowed the Steelers to do more research on everybody in the draft. And when it comes to number 20, they can pick the best available player that they want. And that if that's a quarterback, then it's a quarterback. And if it's not, then they can go a different direction. But I think they still have to do research on the quarterback position, especially after what they saw with Big Ben last year, that they waited and waited. We already know that Mason Rudolph is not the answer, right? Mitchell Trubisky, are we hoping that he's going to come back and have a great season? Are we hoping that he's going to have that bounce back? And do we think he can? I think he can, yes. But they only signed him to 2 years. So what if he does come out there and he's not as good as advertised, or he doesn't do what they need him, and then they draft this guy and they do their research and they draft this guy, and hopefully he's the future. So I think it's good to do your research on it. But Tony, I don't know. This is not the Steelers. This is not on the Steelers. It's not on anything. But the more and more I do research on the quarterback draft myself, I'm staying away from all these quarterbacks in the first round.
See, I think part of the reason that teams are leading towards drafting any of these quarterbacks in the first round is so that if they do get one that pops, they get the fifth-year option, right? Like it's part of the strategy, you know. And if you're the Panthers, I feel like you have to draft a quarterback at that position. Like if you're Matt Rule, it almost feels like to me Kenny Pickett is the guy, and he's going to be the starter no matter what. They're not going to bring in a ton of competition for him there. There's a question here from Hal 9000. Appreciate you stopping by. Anybody on the podcast version, get over to YouTube and subscribe so you can jump in these comments. But he says, do the Steelers go for Jimmy G now? And I don't think they do. I don't think they want to have a veteran because they already have Trubisky. They want a young guy that if Trubisky doesn't work out, they can pivot to him mid-season and say, all right, let's see what we got. And to me, I said this prior to all the hype on Desmond Ridder, but he's my favorite quarterback in this class from like a safety standpoint. I see that Malik Willis athleticism gives you a little bit more upside, right? Like you think maybe you can capture some sort of Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick type energy and bring that into your building. But Desmond Ridder, when you watch it, he he's been doing it for so long, and he got better and better while he was there. And it's not like he's playing with top end talent at Cincinnati. Everybody goes, who did he play? And I always go, well, who did he play with? Because you have to factor in those two things. Like, look at Tua played with all that talent. Joe Burrow played with all that talent. Like, if you're playing with those guys that are first round picks, you should be putting up big numbers. If you have a top ranked defense, you should be, doing all these great things. And I think Desmond Ridder performed really well with who he had there. And I think it's a real good shot for them to get him at number 20, right? Or if they're interested, they could trade up and give us a second round pick and the 20th pick, and you guys can pick at 17 and get your quarterback. Just throwing it out there, Tomlin, in case you're interested. I wouldn't mind moving back to 20 and gaining a second round pick.
Options. Giving you options, Tomlin, out there. I don't know. Like I said, the more and more I look into this, and before the season, we heard, the quarterback class wasn't going to be that good. Then it started building up, and you know how people fall in love and they need a quarterback. And so they started moving them all up again. And I think they're all falling back to their place. I hope we don't see a quarterback go in the top 10 this year, Tony, because that would be something. But I understand what you're saying about a team trying to get one at the end of the first round to get that fifth-year option. That makes a lot more sense in that standpoint, because you're going to take a risk on them anyways. You might as well get that fifth-year option. But do these guys have that talent? And I like how you say your favorite quarterback. Well, I'm going to tell you my favorite quarterback in this draft is Carson Strong. I don't know why. That's the guy I'm leaning more towards. So if I was going to take a risk on him, but do I want to take him at the end of the first round? Hell no. I don't want to take any of these guys, like I just said. So I'm the anti-quarterback first round 2022 this year, Tony. But I understand why a team would do it for the. And if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't know. I don't know what the Steelers are looking for, like what kind of quarterback they're looking for. Because if they're bringing in every quarterback, that means you're going to have to adjust your quarter. You bring in Kenny Pickett, you're going to have to adjust it to him. You're going to have to adjust it to every single quarterback. Are you trying to keep your offense exactly the same? Because if you are, then Carson Strong's your guy.
That's the thing is, like, I think that teams have shown the ability to work with what they have. Look at what the Ravens did on the fly. Like, they started the season with Joe Flacco that year, and then they were like, all right, we got to pivot to Lamar Jackson. So these teams can do it. They know how to play to the strengths. I think they can keep it simple. And Carolina really doesn't have any options. Like, I was talking yesterday with Mike. I don't think that Matt Rule makes it to Thanksgiving. Like, I think he's pretty much going to be, getting that resume and link tree updated so he can be looking for a job the following year, because that team just looks to be lacking at a lot of positions. But to stay focused on this,
they're not hiding it either, Tony. The Carolina Panthers are in on every quarterback in the draft. They're not hiding that they want a quarterback. I don't know if you saw that Sam Darnold came out and said that he still thinks he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
I did see that. I don't know if he said I think I'm one of the best. I think he said I could still do it, which I like that confidence. I don't tend to agree with him. I would have not drafted him. I don't like USC quarterbacks. It's just too long of a list of guys that, overperform in college and then underdeliver when they get to the NFL system. So I don't like it. But the Steelers, they have drafted so well for so long at linebacker and edge rushers and those positions. I just think at 20, there's a really great opportunity for them to add to what their strength is on defense and just roll the ball with Trubisky, right? Like, just go there, and then maybe next year in the draft it doesn't work out, and you're up there, and maybe there's somebody that you can get instead of forcing a QB onto your team this year.
And here's the weird thing about the Steelers draft is Kevin Colbert, the GM. It's his last draft. After the draft, he's stepping down as his GM. So are you really going to let him pick your quarterback for the future? And he's like, all right, peace out. I'm done. Have a good one. That never works out.
Yeah, he did say that his goal was to leave them with the future at the position, right? So I guess that he's not saying Trubisky is the future of the position, or at least he wants to have a backup plan. I think he's done a great job. So nothing he does to me is really going to stain the time and the legacy that he put together in Pittsburgh. Like, It's not like he's going to trade up and be like, all right, I'm trading up to the 4th and I'm taking Sam Howell. Like, he's not going to do something insane, I don't think.
Yeah.
But Hal has another comment in here where he's saying he hopes that I'm thinking he's a 49ers fan. I hope we can find someone to take Jimmy G. Need to free up money for Deebo, which takes us into our second topic.
Deebo.
That's these wide receivers commanding huge trade packages. We saw it with Joe's Raider, and they don't have a first or a second round pick this year because they got Devontae Adams. Tyreek Hill basically, ravaged the Dolphins' draft capital for him to come to Miami. And now we look around at guys like DK. We look around at Deebo Samuel, who's making some noise, and he's doing the scrubbing of the social media, which I'm not a fan of. Like, I don't think it. You know what sends a message? You saying you want to be paid or you're not going to play. Message received, my friend. I don't need you going on social media, working your thumbs to erase, all this.
I've taken down all the pictures of Tony Tucker from my Instagram just to let you guys know.
There you go. Scrub it.
More on this show, Tony.
To me, I think that I believe teams are willing, like a team like the Jets is willing to give up a ton for either Deebo or DK Metcalf. And I think that if you're the 49ers and you gave up all of this stuff to get Trey Lance and you're unsure about him, if at least it feels that way, and you have Jimmy G, to me, yes, Deebo is more valuable, but like when I look at it, how long is Deebo's value really going to be there for? If you look at the way he plays and the things they ask him to do, if he's really going to carry the ball 100 times a year and catch and do all of that stuff, I'm not really sure that like signing him to 4 or 5 years, $27 million is something I love the idea of doing because he plays so violently. And you have Kittle, he plays really violently. Like you have so many guys that have that they go, Deebo's the tone setter. I don't know. We said the same thing about George Kittle 12 months ago. Yeah. Like George Kittle's a tone setter. Like they have other guys that have that violent streak in them that you want there. So if the Jets say, hey, we'll give you a first this year and a second this year and maybe another third and fourth next year for Deebo, I think you got to consider it. What do you think about Deebo, DK, all these receivers?
Okay, Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill, the difference between them and everybody else, they've been doing it over the course of a couple years, Tony. They've been doing it. Deebo Samuels just barely came on the screen. DK Metcalf is what, in the second, they're going into his third year, and they're still like, why? Okay, I understand the potential of DK Metcalf and how good he is, but how many times do we talk on this show that we talk to each other and we said that DK Metcalf still has another level he needs to get to? He drops a lot of balls. There's a couple games that he disappears in. Is he really a top-notch wide receiver? And were the Seahawks better? They were good without Metcalf, and they're good with them, and they're good without him. The thing is, we're talking about wide receivers, and are they replaceable? And if you're going to offer me a big deal, and I understand why the Chiefs did it, if you're going to offer me a big deal for a wide receiver, I'm probably going to take it, and and I don't care what his name is because no wide receiver is better than team because, like you said, the team first is built around the quarterback and the offensive line and the defense. Your wide receiver is going to come in secondary. So, yes, of course, if you're the San Francisco 49ers and the New York Jets come at you with some big deal and they're offering you a first-round pick plus more, take the damn deal. Take the deal.
I think you also got to look at it from the perspective of this. Do you have a quarterback that elevates the play of wide receivers? And I don't think that Jimmy G necessarily has the ability to elevate the play of wide receivers. But if Kyle Shanahan thinks that he can basically still run the ball crazy and Trey Lance's arm talent and ability could elevate the play of, I forget who Hal, if you're still there, who's that other receiver they had that showed a little flash last year? I think his name's Sheffield or 81. And then you got Brandon Ayuk still there and George Kittle. Now, do not get me twisted right here. Deebo Samuels is a mega star in this league and so much fun, and you want him on your team. But weighing the risk of having a guy all of a sudden hitting 28, 29 years old, and he's got massive injuries, I just don't think it's a super, wise decision for any GM, for any head coach to be having that much money tied up in a guy who plays with that sort of intensity. I want Deebo to get paid. Bottom line, whether it's with the 49ers or it's with the Jets, I want him to get paid and I want him to play as long as he possibly can. I would, if I was going to trade for one though, I would trade for DK. Is that who you would trade for?
If I had to trade for one, either Deebo or DK, yeah, I'm probably trading for DK.
Yeah, I think I like Deebo better than I like DK, and that has to do with a little bit of my personal feelings on DK Metcalf. Like, I feel like he pouts a little bit to me. I don't love it. They're both mega talented, but I think I would lean towards getting DK Metcalf because he seems a little more put together. Although he had injuries in college, that's why he dropped, I think, to the second round to the Seahawks. And I think he's on the final year of his deal, fourth year. So maybe the Packers on draft day do something exciting where they're like, first night of the draft, they trade one of those first round picks for DK Metcalf. And now all of a sudden the Seahawks are on the clock at pick, 27 or whatever it is. And it's exciting. Yeah. And Hal confirmed Trent Sherfield. He's also a Yankees fan. And the Judge negotiations went cold, and Deebo's out here in these social media streets tearing things down. How?
He's done with Deebo wanting more money, Judge getting offered $30 million a year and saying no, thank you. That's not a good combination.
Yeah. And who does when you're built like Judge, you want to wear pinstripes. They make you look more slim and jacked up, bro. You don't want to shed those pinstripes. What are you gonna get? Take a big check from like the Pirates? That's no fun. Nobody wants to. You're not on Sunday Night Baseball playing for the Pirates. You're on Sunday Night Baseball playing for the Yankees. Unless you want to come to the Dodgers. I mean, we'll find a way to make some room for you. I'll tell you that right now.
And he's bringing up the Brandon Ayuk was more of a number one wide receiver than Deebo was. And I agree to that because Brandon Ayuk, okay, I know a lot of Niner fans, and I love to piss off Niner fans. But when Deebo Samuel was drafted, a lot of Niner fans were pissed off, and they were like, "We don't need this guy. What the hell?" Brandon, and then going into last year, everybody was more excited about Ayuk than Deebo Samuel. So is Deebo Samuel more of a like you said? Me and you are both taking DK Metcalf. We had to trade for one of them. We're trading for DK Metcalf because I wonder how much of Deebo Samuel is a product of the Kyle Shanahan offense.
I don't think he's a product of the offense. I think that if you put Deebo Samuel with Aaron Rodgers, he would be electric. Like, it would be great. If you put Deebo with any of these top flight quarterbacks, even if you put him with Zach Wilson, I think he's great. And I think with Trey Lance, he would be a great, fine receiver, right? My only concern with Deebo is the play style and how many healthy years are you going to get on that 5-year extension? And is there a way where maybe year 4, year 5, you can just be like, hey, too many injuries. We're going to get out of the Deebo Samuel business. But if I had to give one a long-term, I think it would be DK Metcalf because there's just less impact and collisions involved in his style of play.
Yeah, I'm just old school, Tony. I can't pay a wide receiver $30 million. Like, to me, that's just like, when I see that happening, I'm like, I don't care how good they are. And I'm a Raider fan. Devontae Adams is on the team. I can't do it. It's still bothering me to see a wide receiver go for that much. So if you're saying pay a wide receiver $30 million a year, or here, take 5 draft picks, I'm taking the draft picks.
Yeah, I probably lean that way too. There was even talk of like, people started kicking around the idea of Keenan Allen. And as Chargers fans, we're like, just get out of here. Like, we don't even want to hear that nonsense. But he's about to be 30. And I think that if there was crazy talk, if the Packers were like, hey, here's a first round pick and a third round pick for Keenan Allen, I think you'd be foolish not to listen. But as fans, it's just like, just go get somebody else. Like, we don't even care about the pick as much as we want Keenan Allen to be here when we win a Super Bowl this year. That's all we care about. So
can you win a Super Bowl without an elite wide receiver?
I think you can, right? I think we've seen that stuff happen. The Patriots won a bunch of Super Bowls with mainly Gronk being their quote unquote elite receiving option. I don't think that Julian Edelman was ever considered elite. Those early Patriots Super Bowls, not elite. This is my point about the QB. If your quarterback is good enough, you can make average wide receivers great. And you can elevate the play of a guy who works hard, studies, and runs the route tree well. You can turn him into a really good option at wide receiver. Can your quarterback elevate the play of these other guys? And the Packers, growing up, I was a huge Favre fan. We drafted one first-round wide receiver all the times that I was still a fan of that team, and it was Javon Walker. And it was towards the end of Favre's time there. And it was a total and complete bust. All the other guys, Donald Driver, just all these Antonio Freemans, all these guys that you might remember if you're older like us, but these weren't blue chip first round athletes. It wasn't like they were targeting Randy Moss, or bigger names. Like they didn't look at the Larry Fitzgerald and the Calvin Johnsons and all of this stuff. Like when you're a team that has a quarterback that can elevate the receiver position, you don't need the wide receiver does not need to be first. I've been arguing with Charger fans that, yes, I would love to have Jameson Williams at 17 for the Chargers, but it's an irresponsible move. It's a total fanboy, like, oh man, I just want to cheer for this guy because he's so big and fast. Like, you could go get in the third round somebody who's just as fast, just as big as him, and hope that he matures into something because he gets to sit behind two good receivers and one on the come up, and you'd be better off getting a right tackle at 17 so that your quarterback has the time to throw over the top to the guy who has 4.3 speed. So I get it. Sometimes there's different decisions that have to be made. And
the Steelers have been doing it for years, Tony. Steelers have been doing it for years. They take all these guys in the late rounds and they turn them into great wide receivers. So
but that's a little credit to Roethlisberger too, Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant, Santonio Holmes. I know I'm blanking on some other guys back in the day, but I don't think Hines Ward was a first round pick, and in my book, he's a Hall of Famer. So
should be a Hall of Famer. Put him in the Hall of Fame right now. You got 2 votes right here from
Hines Ward is one of my favorites.
Speaking about Hall of Fame wide receivers, Tony, I don't know if you saw this over the last couple of days about Larry Fitzgerald and Bruce Arians. Now Bruce Arians is out of a job and all that stuff, but Bruce Arians came out and said that he tried to get Larry Fitzgerald to join the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year, but Larry Fitzgerald told him he couldn't even run 2 plays at all. Would that have been something to see Larry Fitzgerald with Tom Brady?
It would have been. It would have been fun. I mean, 2 of the, obviously the GOAT, and then you got one of the greatest players of a generation, Larry Fitzgerald, is another guy that I love because he just did everything right. He was just such a great teammate, and it would have been fun. But also there's something to be said about only ever seeing Larry Fitzgerald in a Cardinals uniform. I think that is kind of cool. And if you're not guaranteed a championship, I like it. I think I think that they didn't need him. He didn't need it. He wouldn't have really added anything to that team. And how much more talent did the Bucs need?
Yeah, he probably would have been the 4th wide receiver, right? With Mike Evans, Godwin, Antonio Brown, and then Larry Fitzgerald. So I don't
know if he would have beat out Scotty Miller at this point. He was struggling to stay on the field the final year he was playing in Arizona. So I'm sure he has the work ethic to still get his body ready and get back out there and probably have 25 snaps a game. But I do think at a certain point, just with anything, the mindset starts to creep in where it's like, is this worth it? Is it worth me getting up and not being able to walk on a Monday morning to do this?
Yeah. I was thinking of the R. Kelly song right now, but it's opposite. It would be opposite because it's my mind's telling me no, but it would be my mind's telling me
but my body's telling me yeah. I don't want to hurt nobody. Don't even get me started on R. Kelly. Old school.
I did have another football thing for you today. I don't know. I've been talking about this for a while, and I'm like, why haven't the Ravens re-signed Lamar Jackson? And everybody talks about how great Lamar Jackson is. You know, I'm not on that train. You know, I'm not on the Lamar Jackson hype train, but I've always said there's something about Lamar Jackson and that they're hiding or that there's something going on. Well, the GM of the Ravens have come out and now said that the Deshaun Watson contract has complicated the quarterback market. So does that mean he's wondering how much they're going to give Lamar Jackson? They don't want to pay Lamar Jackson as much as Deshaun Watson. What do you think's going on in Baltimore? What's the mindset with why they haven't re-signed their so-called franchise quarterback?
I think the owner is really upset because the Browns set a terrible precedent where it's like you can have a lot of skeletons in your closet, and now quarterbacks are supposed to be getting fully guaranteed contracts, which I think is not a great thing. And they have to pay Lamar Jackson, and his play style again comes into you have to, in the NFL. I believe it is a risk management business more than any other sport because of the physicality, right? And the way Lamar Jackson plays, he stayed surprisingly healthy for those first 3 years of his career. And then in year 4, all of a sudden, not so much. Now heading into year 5, yeah, you'd love to give him an extension, but you also want to give him that extension with maybe some kind of funny money at the end where you have and Lamar Jackson is saying, no, I want to go the Kirk Cousins route, and I want to play on the franchise tag. And then I want to go see who wants to bid for my services. And I'm Baltimore. I'm going to give you first chance to make me happy and give me fully guaranteed money. You know, maybe he says like, hey, I want to play on 1 year, $50 million guaranteed contracts for the Ravens. I'm not joking. Like, I think that is the route that he would like to take. I've heard a lot of people speculate on it. I have been saying this to you guys since I met you, that there's going to come a time where the money's going to get so astronomical. At some point, these quarterbacks are going to move into the Brady mentality, where at some point they say, okay, 35 million might be enough because it'd be nice to be able to keep my wide receiver and keep my defensive back and edge rusher and left tackle. I don't need that extra 15 million a year because 35 million is great, right? Everybody goes, well, Tom Brady did that because his wife is a supermodel and she makes billions of dollars. Yeah, but at some point, don't you want to go for 35 million and then try and push the prestige of becoming an NFL champion, the money that makes you after your time is done? Like the jobs you get, the speaking engagements that you get, the acclaim. Like, yes, $15 million difference is a lot of money, but just like nothing can replace being a champion, being the best of the best at your sport for that one period of time. That's my opinion on what quarterbacks.
You want me to give up my private jet to bring in another weapon? I don't think so, Tony. You give me that $15 million.
If you can't have a nice life on $35 million a year, you're doing life wrong.
My kids, like Latrell Sprewell, right? How am I supposed to feed my kids with that kind of offer? You're only going to offer me $35 million? I need $50 million to feed my kids.
I don't know. I feel like you are living life poorly if $35 million a year is not enough money for you.
I'll tell you what, I'll come and play quarterback for you, and I'll do it for $1 million. How about that?
Joe, I've told you many times in high school, I wrote my dream job was to be the backup quarterback to Brett Favre so that I could just sit on the sidelines and clear a fat check every week and get to watch the Green Bay Packers from the sidelines.
Yeah, go. And then that one time he does go down, you're screwed. You're screwed. Your gig is up, Tony.
Well, then I just start faking cramps, like I don't.
Tucker, grab your helmet. You're in. And you're like, oh, I didn't drink enough water today. And then stretch out
like, right. I tap the punter and I'd be like, all right, get in there. Come on. Take a snap and just boot it as far as you can.
Yeah. The goal is to be the Chase Daniels of the NFL, right?
Well, I think backup quarterback has got to be one of the greatest jobs in the world. Like, especially if you play behind, and that was part of the paper, was that like Favre, back then there wasn't a lot of guys that made it through entire seasons, but Favre made it through every season, every game, all the time. There was zero risk of needing to go in there and play a snap. So
you can't even get hit in practice.
The quarterback situation and the Ravens situation, I think. I'm frozen, Joe.
No, you're good. You're frozen, but you're good now.
Okay.
But yeah, I was saying you can't even get hit in practice because you got a red jersey on, so you'll be good.
Yeah. Practice, I'm not worried about. It's in the game. Like when we would have been playing the Vikings and John Randall would have separated me from my abdomen. Let me go shout at my kids real quick to share some Wi-Fi. Oh, I guess it's coming back here. We'll see.
No, you're good. Steve Young hated being a backup. Rightfully so, though. He was great.
Yeah, hell, I agree. Like, Steve Young should have hated being a backup quarterback because he had the talent and ability to play. I did not. I'm 5'10", and although I got a cannon for an arm, I don't necessarily I don't have what it takes to be an NFL quarterback. But I did have what it takes to be the best cheerleader on the sidelines, right? Well, a position I think Baker Mayfield is going to fill quite nicely for some team this year.
Yeah, Tony has a clipboard in one hand. He gives when the starting quarterback comes off the field, he hands him the water and goes, "Hey, drink this up. You're doing all right. You need to massage your legs. All good. Stay in there. Stay in there."
Oh, I'm a clipboard champion, Joe. I'm over there on the sideline, just clap. There it is. Come on, fire up, guys.
That's my quarterback. That's my quarterback. They're like, Tony, don't you want to play? No, he's doing a great job. Keep him out there.
Yeah, I'll be like I come to this camp to compete for the starting gig. It's the Kurt Warner. Mike was telling me about that yesterday. Kurt Warner, he was on the Packers practice squad, and he said, "Do I have any chance to be the starter of this team?" And they were like, "Bro, Brett Favre is the quarterback of the team." Like, no, you don't. He's 3-time MVP. Like, you have zero shots of being the quarterback here.
Well, according to the movie, he only lasted 1 day on that practice squad. According to the,
it's one day longer than I got. Backups play a big role. I agree. I thought what's his name?
You know who the favorite player for every team is, Tony? The backup quarterback.
The favorite
fans
player?
Love the backup quarterback.
They love Marcus Mariota for the silver and black.
I'll tell you that. What's up?
What's going on? Sports Hines, dude.
All right,
big draft coming up for you guys.
I know. Oh, you know what? I don't want to move away from football yet because I know you want to bring up some draft prospects.
Yeah, nope. I just have one last thing I want to get into, and we don't have to get too deep into it. But I'm confused as to why people are down on Kayvon Thibodeau. Right? I guess I get it, but I don't. I get it, but I don't get it. And I think that he has been playing this whole situation to be protecting his body, he's very smart. He's very camera savvy. Like, you see him in the interviews or whatever, like, he's very confident, personality. He is building a brand for himself. Like, he said why he picked to go to Oregon, because he liked the affiliation with Nike. Like, he wants to make connections. I get that he might not be as focused on football as somebody like Aiden Hutchinson or Trayvon Walker or whatever. But what's the bad side about, like, thinking about the business aspect? You don't think that he's going to want to put up numbers for your team so that he can get a massive contract extension? Like, maybe you worry about it a little bit after he gets a big signing bonus and guaranteed money. But for that first couple of years, he needs to have big sacks. He needs the highlights, because that's what's going to sell endorsements on the defensive side of the ball. Like, there's already a chasm between offensive athletes and defensive athletes getting endorsements. You see many more wide receivers, used to be running backs, quarterbacks, all getting endorsement deals. On the defensive side of the ball, you have to be one of the Watt brothers. Like, Myles Garrett's one of the best players. We never see him. Now, maybe that's because he smashed a dude over the head with a helmet, but like, you still don't even see. I don't see enough Jalen Ramsey. I don't even see Aaron Donald commercials that much. He's got like one commercial, some hologram technology or whatever. Like, I think Kayvon Thibodeau he's a football player who's also a businessman.
Yeah, Aaron Donald's commercial, he's half of his invisible for. So yeah, I don't understand what you're talking about. But yeah, I'm not understanding the drop in the draft for him. Like, he went from being the number 1 draft pick like all offseason to now they're saying he could drop out of the top 10. I'm not believing that hype. I still think he goes number 2. But I don't know why people, like we said, Tony, is draft season. You find one thing that you don't like, or he says one thing you don't like. People drop these prospects for no damn reason. And all it hurts is the team that missed out on him because he goes out and dominates somewhere else. I don't have a problem with a player wanting to build his own brand, as long as he's on the field dominating. But like you said, he has to dominate to build his own brand. If he's not good in the NFL, there's no brand to build. So I have no problem with him putting that together.
Yep, I think it's extremely smart of him. I liked everything he said. He seems to be like a good, person character-wise. So I don't understand. I think whoever gets him is getting a great player. Hal says you guys are going to love Nick Mullins there. I hope the Chargers get a chance to play Nick Mullins this year. That means Derek Carr won't be out there. And Sports Science Dude says, who do I want the Chargers to draft? Sports Science Dude, if I'm being completely 100% honest with you, I want to trade back with either maybe the Bengals might make sense. We trade back to 31 and we get a second-round pick there. Or I think maybe we trade back with Green Bay. We trade back with the Lions and we add a second-round pick, because I don't think we need to necessarily force the offensive line option when we could move back, still get a great offensive lineman, and add a big-time running back to complement Eckler in the first 2 rounds. That is what I would do if I were the GM. I would trade back, and I would end with some combination of maybe Kenyon Green falls. Maybe we trade up into the second round and get Daniel Falele from
even if
Minnesota.
Jordan Davis is sitting there, you want to trade back?
Yeah, my thing is they spent money on Sebastian Joseph Day. They spent money on Austin Johnson. There's still some younger guys and some veteran players that I like in that position, and I just think that for this team for the Chargers to compete for a Super Bowl, which is what I want them to do, I think they need a bigger running back to go into cold games on the road. Because the Chargers, even if they win the division this year, they're not going to have the best record in the AFC, which means they're going to be on the road in Tennessee with the Bengals or the Bills. And you need a big guy who can carry the ball when it gets cold late in games to punish. And I do not want Eckler getting beat up, because he's our best option to be running between the tackles. He's 190 pounds. I don't care how ripped he is. He's 190 pounds. I want a guy who's 220, chugging down the middle and just being like, hey, it's a short career, but it's a glorious one.
See, and I think the NFL has kind of gone away from that, and they're missing it, and it will come back slowly, is the big running back that gets the 3rd and 1s, that gets the tough yardage at the end of the games when you need them. Like you've seen the NFL go away from it, but I think they're going to slowly come back and get that, because you can't allow these small running backs to get hit on these goal line situations, on these 3rd and 1s for no reason.
Eckler's too valuable to the Chargers. Like, think about all he does in the pass game, the way he can hit the edges. He's actually good at pass blocking, but I don't want him out there taking any more hits. He's getting older, and I think having him there and healthy for longer is the best benefit to our team. So we need a complimentary back, and I think Kenneth Walker in the 2nd round from Michigan State would be great. Pair him with an offensive lineman that you can get either guard or right tackle in end of the 1st and the 2nd rounds. And then all of a sudden you're going into the 3rd round. It's like, do we want to add a speedy wide receiver instead of, I just keep seeing all these people saying, we have to draft Jameson Williams. Do we have to draft? We just spent $20 million on Mike Williams. We have Keenan Allen, and Josh Palmer played really great last year. Do you not remember the catch on 4th and 21? Do you not remember the 50-50 ball touchdowns that he was catching? Like, Why do we need to go draft this guy? We can wait to the third round. Kelvin Austin is a fun, fast receiver. Tyquan Thornton is from Baylor, is a big, strong, fast receiver. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if they traded back and took Christian Watson and a tackle. I wouldn't be mad about that. And then third round. There's so many scenarios. I'm very excited about it. But ultimately, a trade back from 17 that's my ultimate hope for the Chargers.
If this is any draft to trade out of the first round or trade back, it's this draft. I'm not like when the Raiders made that trade for Davante Adams, I wasn't upset because, like I said, I'm old school. I love draft picks, Tony. I love acquiring draft picks. I love having draft picks. But when they traded Davante Adams, I looked at it and I go, oh, okay. The number 22nd pick, if so-and-so would have fell, then I would have wanted him. But there wasn't a lot of where I was like, yeah, that's great first-round talent that I wanted. So I'm not falling in love with this draft class as much as I have in the last. So I think if you're going to trade, this is the year to trade down or move around.
I think you guys were in a really good spot for what you need, which is wide receiver in the first round, because to me, your team you guys do need to look at Christian Watson, Jahan Dotson. This is prior to the Davante Adams move, obviously. But now you have Davante. In your second round pick, you guys definitely could have, been looking for offensive line, maybe linebackers. You guys got a lot of holes. Don't worry. You'll be fine this year. A lot of hope for you guys to be 8-9.
Well, it's pretty tough to be second best team in the AFC West last year, coming off the playoffs. You guys probably wouldn't know anything about that. But
I can't wait.
Let me transition a little bit. Yesterday was opening day for baseball, Tony, if you didn't see it. Both of you and I are Dodger fans. The Dodgers pulled off a victory.
I did.
I don't know if you saw during the game, Rockies shortstop Jose Iglesias hit a single, got to first base, and started crying. Dodgers first baseman Freddie Freeman asked him what was wrong, and he said, "I got his dad had just passed away, and it's just emotional for him." I don't know. To me, I love stories like that because it shows that, one, professional athletes are human. Two, no matter what happens, they still have to go out there and perform. And we don't know. We put so much pressure on these athletes to go out there and perform for us. We don't know what they're going through. And I don't know how long ago his dad passed away, but for him to go out there and do that, he's still thinking about it. And I just thought that was a great story that we need to bring up on our show.
I do. I love stories like this. It is a beautiful thing. You have people out there in competition, and sometimes as fans, we get crazy and start saying the things that I say off camera about football players, all athletes that are just way more talented than I am. It's ludicrous, but we're fans. It's fanatic. It's short for being, just insane. And when you hear a story like this, where it's like, yeah, he still has to go out. He has to do a job, and he's hurting, and it's tough. I know when my mom passed away, if you would have asked me to do anything, I was angry. People were, it didn't matter. It was like, F you, get away from me. I don't think I could have gone and done any sort of job with any sort of high competency level. That was one of my best friends, and she was gone, and I was pissed, and I like it. And Freddie Freeman, I don't know if anybody's ever watched the 30 for 30 with his relationship with his parents. It is, grab the tissues. It is a sad, they build in the music. The thing was scored by John Williams, the guy who did Jurassic Park and all those movies. This thing was just so close with the mom and dad and the tragedy. So for him to be on first base, I think that's a moment where he could really sort of relate. It's a beautiful story. Yeah. Now, Joe, let's talk about the Dodgers for a second, because I did watch most of the game. They look great. But Craig Kimbrell is still a heart attack like Kenley Jansen. I was still in the ninth inning being like, is this dude who's all hawked up there on the mound, he's going to be giving me acid reflux all season long?
Yeah.
Just being like, I'm going to vomit. What's going on?
But did you see Jensen yesterday?
I didn't. I just watched the.
Well, we have Craig Kimbrell, all right. We already know what Jensen's all about. So Jensen came in for the Braves with a 7-4 lead, gave up a bunch of hits, finally ended up winning 7-6. He got the win. So that was bringing flashbacks to Dodgers fan. I'll take Kimbrell. Look, we all know when we brought him in for the AJ Pollock trade that the Dodger fans were taking it. He's not the same pitcher he was years ago. So we're taking a risk on him. We're just hoping that he can get us through a couple of games. And it's still early in the season. But, hey, we've been here before. Why? We might as well do it with him instead of paying Jensen $20 million a season. We might as well just go through the ups and downs here. But it's nothing new for us at Dodger fans to see the closer come out and all of us be like, ugh.
Yeah, and I still like a lot of the arms in the bullpen, and most likely they'll make a trade for some reliever at the deadline if it's not working out. And Kimbrel still hit 97, so he still got gas. Like,
I do have an issue with Dodger fans, though. Leave Cody Bellinger alone. Like, are you really good? Dodger fans are really turning on Cody Bellinger, and it's already like we're 2 years away from winning the World Series. With Cody Bellinger was a big part of the World Series. And people are already turning on him one game into the season. And there are like you can go on TikTok and find all the highlights where they're like, look at this pop-up by Cody Bellinger. All he does is get hits when we don't need him to get hits. It's like, leave the dude alone. Calm down.
Well, that's the dumb thing about fans is like, if you're going to put stuff out into the world, put out positivity, people. Do you think you saying nasty stuff about people that you like to cheer for helps them in any way? It doesn't. There's lots of players on teams I have issues with. I keep it private. Talk to my friends about it. Whatever. Like, you don't need to put out something positive. Put out encouragement. Chargers just signed Troy Reeder today. I'm going to go make a video about how I love the move.
You love it.
Whatever. It don't matter, bro. It's positivity for your team. You want them to win and be in the organization. I'm going to close with this, Joe. Tiger Woods returned to the golf course. I know Joe's not a fan, so I'm going to put this on a level without getting too nerdy about golf because I love golf.
That's because I love Sergio Garcia.
Let me check that. I love Tiger Woods, and he got me into golf, and it's fantastic. But this dude is like on that Alex Smith level. They're talking death, leg amputation. Dude's got this like 16 months ago, what this guy went through. Goes to one of, the toughest golf tournament, at least to walk uphill and everything and play at the Masters, playing at Augusta, a tournament he's won many times. And he's out there and he's competing and making the cut. Now, today, he didn't have a very good round. I turned it off to do this show. He was like +3 on the day and I was getting pissed. So I was like, I've had enough of this nonsense. But Tiger Woods to play in this tournament is so fantastic. Like, what do you think is tougher, Joe, to come back and play? Well, no, this isn't it. That's not a fair question because playing football is just like, it's every time Alex Smith dropped back, I
off the rehab. So
every time Alex Smith dropped back, I literally broke out into a sweat, worried about his leg getting snapped off. So it's not a fair comparison. I just want to say Tiger Woods making the comeback, and it just makes golf more fun and interesting, at least for me, somebody who doesn't watch the entire year of tournaments. I watch when Tiger's on TV, and that to me is entertainment. Do you have any thoughts on Tiger Woods?
I do like that. I heard Tiger cuss the other day. He hit the ball and he cussed. So that I was happy about that because I've always wanted golf to turn into the Happy Gilmore golf that I've seen.
I'll say this, Joe. Tiger Woods is your guy then, because for years, people who are traditional golf fans hate Tiger Woods because he does have a foul mouth. He snaps clubs. Like, he's very intense, and sometimes it boils over. And they did catch him on camera. I was watching, and he was he
socked Bob Barker, though.
He was like, blanking Tiger. I don't know if he'd sock Bob Barker, but he definitely might give, one of those guys, Vern Lundquist, he's a golf announcer. You might give him a little shot.
What's wrong with that? Because you go golfing and you're gonna be pissed off on the golf course, so that you relate to it, right? I know when I gave golfing a chance, I was cussing up a storm and throwing my clubs and stuff, and then the guy would come around and kick me off the golf course. So why not? I relate to that more than somebody who hits a bad shot and you're like, oh, I'll get it next time, Tony.
Yeah, I think what happens is golf is a gentleman's game, right? And I've been asked at many golf courses to keep it down, but I also have like a 4-beer buzz, and it's fun because that's what golfing is when you're somebody like me. Get together with your friends, sit in the golf cart. I haven't been golfing in like 5 or 6 years. Just life is too much and too busy. But I don't know. I'm working out again, feeling good. Maybe I'll get back out there and play some golf. Been re-inspired. If Tiger Woods can get back on the course with rods in his leg after being in that crazy accident, to me, 16 months, that turnaround that's intense.
It doesn't matter what you're doing. Any major injury that you come back from and you can go back to doing what you were doing and do it at a good level, it's commendable, Tony. So people could say golf's not a real sport, but to do what he did and to do that, even just going back to a normal 8-to-5 job after an injury like that sometimes is hard. So good for Tiger Woods. I know that I live right around the corner from a golf course, Tony, and the only thing that I get out of that golf course is there's one hole I get to walk by, and they're about to tee off, and I get to yell at them right before they tee off, and it pisses them off.
You got to wait. You got to yell, "Get in the hole!" That's every time that a golfer hits a shot, they yell, "Get in the hole." It's like, how many times does that work? Almost never. So
what about I saw Derek Carr posted a video the other day. He hit a hole-in-one on a little par 3 or something like that, and he said it was the worst thing for a golfer because he was all by himself. He said he hit a hole-in-one all by himself, and that's the worst thing for a golfer to ever do.
It is, because you jump and it's exciting because it never happens. The likelihood of getting a hole-in-one it's not likely. So,
and now everybody, prove it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think Trump had a hole-in-one or something, and people were like trying to dissect it. Like, did he really or did he cheat? It's like, oh my goodness. All right, fine. Best golf shot I ever hit, Joe, was I was about 110 yards out, and it was the worst, ugliest shot you could ever imagine, and it was uphill, and we looked around for the ball, and my friend was like, just drop it here next to mine, and let's putt and get out of here. And when we putted, we found my ball in the hole. It was accidental. Wow. You know, golf shots are supposed to have arc on them and land. Mine went skidding across the ground. Like, it was so ugly, and we thought the ball was lost, and it ended up in the hole. It must have hit the flag stick, counted. And yeah, golf clap for me. Let's golf clap for Sports Dummies. We appreciate all the people who stopped by. Hell 9000 in the comments, entertainment. If you're listening to us on the audio version, get on over to YouTube and subscribe on warzonesportsnetwork.com. Sports Dummies. We try to come out with a new show every Friday, Saturday, depending on schedules and life, but it'll always be there in your pocket. If you subscribe, you'll get the notifications. Joe, anything else you want to say, promote, do before we get out of here?
How about them Lakers?
Oh my, what a dick, dude. Who ends the show like that? Like trolling me. LeBron's not even get the scoring title now. That was the other thing I wanted to talk about. Let's just get out of here. Limping into the off season. Good thing I got my Chargers. That's all I know. You can stop me from ranting.
That's
you can stop me from ranting anytime I want.